Quite apart from the atrocities and their effect on Ulster, the rebellion of 1641 had another all-important effect on the way things were to go in Ireland. The Gaelic Irish had risen in the Catholic cause, as well as the cause of their own lands lost to the new settlers. But the old English settlers in Ireland were Catholic too, like the Gaelic Irish. And as the English Parliament became more and more Puritan, moving as it was towards a civil war with the king, as Parliament became more and more zealously anti-Catholic, all Catholics in Ireland, Gaelic and Old English, became more and more anxious that their religion would prejudice their rights to land. In other words, the two Catholic groups in Ireland came together to form a self-protective alliance that was slightly uneasy at first, but strong and all-important for the people. That religious faith, rather than racial origin, was deciding allegiances in Ireland is shown by what happened here at Clongowes in the Great Rebellion of 1641. Clongowes, once a bastion of that English Pale built to ensure that the English government's writ could at least run round Dublin. The present building houses a Catholic boys' public school, and harmony of English culture with Irish Catholic zeal is apt. For in 1641, the owner here, an English Catholic, drew his sword for the Catholic religion and Ireland against the English government in Dublin. Here Protestants committed atrocities, slaughtering women and children on the estate, hanging the garrison, and smashing open the jaws of the 90-year-old mother of the owner to get at the key to a secret room which he held in her mouth. Such were some of the awful events were now gradually hammering the people of Ireland into two nations, one Catholic and one Protestant. It was the Catholic people of Ireland who were eventually to dominate Irish identity.
I have kept the faith. That has been the ambition of the Irish down the centuries, through persecution, through poverty, in famine, and in exile. You have kept the faith. For many, it has meant martyrdom. Here, at Drogheda.
Here at Drogheda, a name enters Irish history that is still not left. Cromwell. Because here at Drogheda, in the name of English government, Cromwell carried out one of his most ruthless deeds. Cromwell had won his civil war against the king in England, but in Ireland there were still strong royalist armies, English royalists allied with Irish Catholics. Cromwell had come to break them all.
I have come with the assistance of God to hold forth and maintain the lustre of English liberty in a land where we had undoubted right to it.
Cromwell came over, wrote someone who experienced it, and like a lightning passed through the land. Struck first here at Drogheda. And you really can't call this a simple race or anti-Irish action, as nationalist legend has sometimes had it, because the commander of the garrison here was a veteran English soldier, and many of his officers were English royalists fighting the Civil War still here in Ireland, and now in common cause with Irish Catholic rebels. Cromwell had brought over modern siege artillery, superior to anything then in Ireland, and he put his guns on the high ground over there across this sort of ravine. With 200 to 300 cannon shot, he succeeded in making a breach. But his first attempt to storm the breach was driven off with some loss of men, and it was this setback which seems to have inflamed Cromwell, so that when his men did eventually succeed in breaking in, he behaved as he did.
Being in the heat of the action, I forbade them to spare any that were in arms in the town.
Women and children inevitably got caught up in the process. Attacking in person, sword in hand, Cromwell and his men, in final assault, drove the defendants back through this churchyard here to a fortified hill over there known as Millmine. Trapped here, the English commander and his officers surrendered, but were immediately put to the sword, though that's something of a euphemism where the commander himself is concerned, because he, Sir Arthur Aston, was, it's said, actually beaten to death with his own wooden leg, because, it's said, Cromwell soldiers believed that he had money concealed. The part of the garrison that temporarily managed to escape crossed the river down there to the other part of the town and took refuge, some of them, in St. Peter's Church, the tower of St. Peter's Church, which was then a wooden tower. Cromwell had it burned down, and those who fled from it were massacred. Of a party of some 120 defenders he caught in another tower and who surrendered, he later wrote,
"The officers were knocked on the head, and every 10th man of the soldiers killed, and the rest shipped to the Barbados. I think we put to the sword altogether about 2,000 men."
And just to assuage any feelings of guilt or remorse he might have felt, Cromwell added,
"Therefore, it is right that the Lord alone should have all the glory."
In a rather confused way, Cromwell seems to have seen himself as accomplishing the Lord's work by avenging, here in Drogheda, the atrocities of the rebellion of 1641, some 8 years before. But then Drogheda had taken no part in the rebellion of 1641. It had in fact been inside the government of Minister Pale all the time, and had only been occupied by royalist troops some 2 months before Cromwell's arrival in Ireland. Now, it is possible that some of that garrison might have taken part in atrocities some 8 years before, but certainly not all of them, and certainly not the English officers. Nevertheless, the effect on Ireland of this, Cromwell's final ruthless campaign of the Civil War, was devastating. In the name of English government, Irish Catholics, symbolized by the Whore of Babylon, were to be trodden under, and Irish Protestants were to triumph.
I feel particularly sorry for those that believe in the Roman Catholic faith, because I think they're living in idolatry. They're living in darkness.
From Drogheda, Cromwell's Puritan parliamentary armies marched victoriously south through Ireland. Some surrendering garrisons were treated with mercy, even with honour. But one town, Wexford, suffered even worse than Drogheda. Wexford was stormed while still negotiating surrender, and Cromwell's men ran amok in the town, killing at least 2,000, of whom 200 were said to be women and children slaughtered in the marketplace. Drogheda and Wexford were burned into the folk memory of Southern Irish Catholics as part of the curse of Cromwell. After Wexford, the rest of the Parliamentary Army's campaign against the Irish Royalist and Catholic forces was quite soon over. When it was over, Cromwell acted ruthlessly against those defeated Irish Catholics who owned land. To his soldiers and to adventurers who financed his campaigns, he gave Catholic land. He transplanted the Catholic owners beyond the River Shannon to the more barren areas of the province of Connaught. With this final humiliation of the Irish Catholic landowners, their banishment to a remote corner of their own country in the beautiful, sad lands of the West, the curse of Cromwell was complete.